Hello, I'm home from my small group. It was super weird because I was on the way there and then I had just posted this short from Crowder about Come As You Are was the song. And I was trying to make it where the music clip that played was something about like there's no hurt that heaven can't heal. I was trying to get that clip, that piece of the music to play, but it just wouldn't work right. Like sometimes it's hard to make getting the music to line up exactly the right way, because you're only allowed like so many seconds, or at least I don't even know for sure what I'm doing with these shorts, but so it has to fit right in the time that you're allotted. Anyway, and it didn't work out right. So then I ended up, there was this different clip for a sound that I used, but then the Bible verse was about that stuff, like come weary, I'll give you rest. And then it was so interesting because I was like driving to small group, and I accidentally went because I went to that worship night this weekend, and it was like 5 minutes away from my small group. And so they're like very close together, these two houses. Makes me think I should invite the small group people to the worship night people. But anyways, then the wrong address was still in my map, and for whatever reason, since it's the same city and it's so close, I was thinking, oh, this is my address for my small group. So I ended up driving to the worship night house. I was like, well, this is wrong. So I had to plug in the map for the small group house, and but I was originally going to be early, so I wasn't actually there too late, just within 5 minutes late. But what the song that came on the radio was this one from Mercy Me, and it's the Best News Ever song. But then there was this part, because sometimes just parts in songs will just jump out at me. God actually speaks to me a lot through the radio. Like I have so many stories of like miraculous things that happen through the radio. This is not one of them, but it was just kind of a cool one where the song was and I don't normally love this song. There's something about it, I'm like, it's not really one of my favorites. But the part that was jumping out at me was, come all you weary and you burdens, blah, 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 come and find rest. And I was like, I just posted that, like within the hour. That was in the short that I just made. That was in the Bible verse that we just posted. So I thought that was interesting that happened. And then went to the small group, and it was one of those nights where it was like practically the entire group can't make it. Like there was just two of us who were able to show up, and then the wife of the leader couple, whose house it is. And so there was 3 women then. But it was actually so nice having it just be the 3, because normally the room is just packed, and normally it's a men and women mix, and it allowed for some more intimacy than when it's a larger group. And it felt like God was like making it where just the right people were gonna be there tonight. And so we were talking about how Jesus kind of intersected like his life and his path and where he was going with the path for the woman at the well, and how we all have these like intersection moments where like your life can change course, really, and the point of the video was like, try to be the one who like says the right thing at the right time to the right person. Like maybe that's an intersection moment for them, or like look for the people who are going through an intersection experience in their life. So we were just kind of talking about these various things, but what it did is then it made us all, just the 3 of us, then talk about like how we each ended up at this particular church. And so it wasn't like fully sharing testimonies necessarily, but it was, because since we were talking about various intersections and stuff, it just kind of came out where our stories were so similar. It was like we all have like very similar backgrounds or situations with our children, or how we ended up at that church. And although there's differences, there's a lot of similarities. And what's interesting about it is we all have things that we don't generally tell people, and I won't of course, go into it, but all of us have our things that we generally don't say, especially maybe to the other Christians who may be the judgy type of Christians. And it's interesting because, one of the people, that's a thing for them, like those other types of Christians and how they are we just all are so similar in these ways. So it was nice. Like I shared parts of the pieces along my journey that caused me to end up at that church that I have never told anybody else. And we were all just kind of sharing our pieces that we don't normally tell people, which was so nice, because with the intimacy of just the three of us and with all the similarities that amongst us all, those could just naturally come out in just a super easy, light-hearted kind of way, like a really just honest, open sharing, that would not have happened if all the people could have made it tonight. So it was so nice, and it felt like an intersection moment for us, for the three of us, like our lives intersected all that way where we could have that moment tonight, and then the people who weren't there, and that's, I think, okay. Maybe those people have different stories, or they just weren't meant for this conversation or something. So it was super good the way it turned out. And we talked too about the different temperaments. We always talk about the temperaments at this group because a lot of us have taken, like the church has this class that they offer. I said this, you heard that, and it's about the different temperaments. And I had been exposed to temperaments previously in my life. Like our family talks a lot about temperaments, or at least used to. Now we're more talking about the Myers-Briggs personality types, but so I was familiar with temperaments before, but the class is different because it's, of course, Christian based, and it's more the church values of, it's very biblical, and, don't let anything come out of your mouth that is going to hurt somebody else. Like only let things come out of your mouth that is going to build somebody up. And then there's the Bible verse that I forget that that's based off of. And such an interesting concept, like only speak if you're going to be helping the other person with your words, because mouths can do such damage, and the church, you can just see the way they operate. You can just tell that they take very seriously the using your tongues properly, right? I don't know if I've shared this story before, but like you can't complain, you can't complain, you can't whine about anything. Like they will very lovingly redirect, and they'll speak it more positively, and it just flows. They must train all the staff to do this, but they will always redirect a complaint to spin it for the positive. One time I don't remember what the deal was, if I was serving a double shift or something, but it was like I was going to be there for like extra long or something, and I just was talking to my daughter, and I was like, I have to be here until whatever time, and I was just kind of explaining like it's going to be a longer thing. I'm like, I have to be here until whatever, and then like a staff overheard me, and they're like, it's a pleasure to serve. And it's like they're not being mean, they're just like they heard that it sounded like a complaint, and they're redirecting it towards the positive. And it just made me laugh because I was like, that's what they're like though. And you'll notice it. Like if you ever are like, oh, I'm getting a cold, and you're like, oh, I'm getting a cold, or I'm getting sick, or I've been sick all week, or whatever it is, then there will always be a very subtle and sweet redirect towards something more positive. And it's just, I think that they're like experts at doing it. But it also makes you realize like, man, I kind of complain on more than I realize I complain. But And I'll see them doing it to other people too. Like it's just part of how they operate as a church, and it's so respectful. And I think what it does is it prevents the devil from getting a foothold, because they're not going to allow if they're not even going to allow those kinds of things, like whining about a cold or something. I mean, if they're not going to allow any complaint, it's nipping like any little spark that would start a fire, and they're nipping it in the bud where the devil cannot get a foothold in that church. And it's really awesome to see. It's super smart, and they never talk about it. It's like silent and unspoken. You learn from observing. Versus I have had other experiences in other church settings where it's like gossip is just rampant and the people don't even consider it gossip. And it's 100% gossip, and it's 100% the devil behind it, and it's 100% like mistruths being gossiped, and people aren't even catching that it's gossip. And it's just it's the misuse of mouths is so horrific, and yet that's the culture for them. They don't even realize it's what's bad about it, and they would probably argue with you that it's not gossip, but it is. It is complaining, it is gossip, it is wrong. And to see these two differences, it's so stark. And I really respect that approach of not misusing your tongue. Only say something, only open that mouth if it's going to help someone. But anyway, so I'm off topic, but they have this class that we took, and I'm a phlegmatic and melancholic. And then my sister is a melancholic, and my other sister is a choleric. And it's like, once you know the different types, my ex-husband was a sanguine, then it helps you know how to relate to people and what they need and how to communicate with them, or it helps you read things correctly, right? Like my sister, for example, who's a melancholic, when she goes silent, it is so destructive to the family, because it's like there are times you need to communicate, and yet for her temperament there are times she can't. She just needs space, and it can be easily read as so hurtful and mean, and it can be misunderstood, because to be so silent and to be so ignoring is such a painful dynamic in a relationship. And yet that's what the melancholics do, and they're not doing it to be mean, they're doing it because they need space. And so that has helped me with my own just processing my relationship with one of the sisters as our family goes through some hard stuff, because I try to remember to see it as her temperament. And there's, of course, other issues at play, but then the point of that is if I know that, then what do I say to her or do for her that will help her, right? So that's something we talked about then tonight, is because the group leader is the wife who was there. She's also the melancholic. And so I was like, I need advice, how to get my sister out of the place where she's just silent. And she was giving some advice on how maybe to do that, which was helpful to hear. I'm going to try that approach of what she had suggested. But and then what else? I think that's all I was going to say. I wrote down some things that were on my mind when I came home, but that's unrelated to stuff I need to say on the video. So anyway, but it was a fun night. It was nice to be able to have the topic be intersections, and to feel like that was an intersection moment for the three of us. And it was nice to have our stories be, in their own way, have a lot of similarities and have all our own share of pieces that we don't share, you know, with others, and yet that's just it. It's like it's easy to share that stuff with other people who just get it, you know, and versus if you share it with somebody else who doesn't get it, then now it's a big drama, or maybe it's gossip, you know. So to have the space where it was such a small fraction of our small group, and to have those be the people where we could just talk openly about a few various things and just understand each other easily was so nice. It felt like an intersection moment for the three of us. And then also I thought that was weird again about that song. Like I just posted that about the Come As You Are song from Crowder, and then on the radio right when I was getting there I heard that song about what was it? Come all you weary and you burden, come and find rest from Mercy Me. I'm like, how weird is that? Like, it's just interesting. But this is getting too long now, I have to stop. But there's so many times where that will happen with the radio where and this isn't a perfect example of that, but where it will feel like 100% it was like a major God moment, like unmistakable. And I'll tell them really quick, but they won't be great. Like if I could do a whole video on each of them, you know. But like there was one time where I had got a cake for my daughter, and it was her birthday, and I was rushing around, and I was like doing all these errands like right in a row, and then I had got her cake, and it was sitting on the passenger side of the car, and the radio was on, but I wasn't listening to it. Like I wasn't conscious even that it was on. It's just always on and always on that station when I'm in the car. That I wasn't actively singing or even aware because I was distracted. My mind was thinking about this birthday stuff. And then I had to, probably because I was so distracted, the car was gonna stop. There was the lights. I had come to a stoplight, and it was like I had to stop quickly, and I stopped fast enough where the cake slid off the front seat and then did a full flip over and landed on the top, on the frosting part of the cake. Now, granted, it's in the box, but my heart sank, and I knew like that cake is a goner. Like I just ruined that cake that I just picked up. Like the frosting is, like this cake is crushed now. Like the top of it is ruined now. I mean, my heart just was just like, oh, like how horrible can that be? You know, you just got it in the car and now it landed on the top. And when I had a second to reach over, I think by the time I was just actually at the light, it was all so fast because it was the red light. Then I stopped and picked it up, and there was this part on the radio from the song Together, and it was something like, if we fall, we will fall together. When we rise, we will rise together, or that piece of that song. And anyway, I picked up the cake and took a look at it, and it wasn't even dented. Like there was no smudged frosting at all. It was like a cake miracle. Like this cake did that whole fast flip up over, you know, it was like, there's no way for it to have not gotten ruined. And then you picked it up and it was like not even any misplaced frosting at all. And then all of a sudden and the radio was so loud. It went from like me not even like being conscious that the radio was even playing to that piece about like, if when we fall, we will fall together. Or if we fall, we will fall together. I don't even remember the words. And then when we rise, we will rise together. And I was like, it was like God like speaking to me directly through that radio. Like, I got you and I got this cake. I got your daughter's birthday. I got the cake. I'm here with you. When this falls, when you fall, when the cake falls, when you fall, we'll fall together. Like, I'm with you. It was so remarkable. And then another time, I was gonna give this homeless guy some, like we had made and that's another thing about us making these bags. We were struggling with like, how are we gonna make these bags for the homeless people? We didn't really there was some issues with that I won't go into. And then we weren't just going to give them money, but we were going to like make these bags, and we're trying to figure out what kind of bag, and we were going to get some from this shelter, and there's just things were not quite working out. And then on the radio, randomly, it said out of nowhere, like right during this time in our lives, it said something about how to use a gallon bag, a Ziploc bag for putting stuff in to give out the car window. And I was like, so then that's when we started using that. And then a really remarkable story happened after we started using the bags. But anyway, so then we had these bags in the car, and then this other guy, I was gonna give him, like, I was looking at him like, should I get, normally I don't struggle with it. Normally I'm like, it's super easy for me to hand money out the car window or hand the bags out the car window, or just, I don't ever question it. But for whatever reason, this particular guy, I was struggling so hard with, should I or should I not give him the bag with the, like, we'll put money in there and all the stuff. Like, should I or should I not give it to him? And I, for whatever reason, had decided not to. And I literally started to, like, I was at the gas station, and I literally started to pull my car away just barely to leave and to not give him one, which is rare for us because we usually give anybody one. But, and then the radio was like super loud, and it was like, there was that song, it was like, have you ever been left when you should have been loved? And I thought, that's God telling me, have you ever been left when you should have been loved? Because I wasn't loving the guy, I was leaving. And so then I was like, oh, okay. So then I didn't leave, and turned around, and then I gave the guy the bag, and then I left. But I just have like story after story about the radio, just having the radio on. But and again, it's like I'm not hearing it. The only time it gets like super loud, like it's literally blaring and speaking like it's God's voice loud at me, are these times when it's like, where it feels like God is using even the radio. God will use anything. God will use whatever to speak to us. And it's remarkable. I have just so many stories about how the radio has, or God has done that. I shouldn't say the radio has done it, how God has done that. But anyway, this is a super long video. I try not to have them be this long. So anyway, that's all. Have a good night. Bye.